Imagine you suddenly stop replying to messages, no explanations, no apologies, just a pause. What happens? The reactions from friends, colleagues, or family reveal more than you might expect. Some criticize, others pull away, and some try to pull you back into a familiar role. What if your silence isn't a weakness but a step toward freedom? Constant availability feels like a virtue, but it often becomes a trap, opening the door to manipulations disguised as care. Let us explore why being always on is dangerous, the price you pay, and how setting boundaries can transform your life. Ask yourself, where in your life are you giving more than you're getting? Why are you always available? You reply to messages even when exhausted, agree to meetings to avoid hurting feelings, and explain yourself when it is not required. Sound familiar? Over time, this openness becomes a pattern, then an obligation. Picture a colleague who always helps with tasks, even when swamped. At first, they thanked, but soon their help is taken for granted. Tasks pile up automatically, and refusal feels like betrayal. A 2020 study by the American Psychological Association found that people who struggle to say no experience 35 higher stress levels and risk emotional burnout because their energy is drained by others' priorities. Think about your day. How often do you respond to messages or calls when you'd rather have quiet? Do you agree to extra tasks to avoid awkwardness? Constant availability creates expectations that are hard to break. Take this example. A friend constantly seeks advice but never asks about your life. You spend hours listening, only to feel drained afterward. This isn't a friendship, it is a one-sided dynamic where your availability becomes a resource for others. Being always on costs more than time. It depletes your mental energy. Every reply, every yes when you want to say no, takes effort. A 2021 Harvard Business Review study found that employees who consider themselves always available are 27% more likely to face burnout because they lose control over their energy. Reflect. How often do you grab your phone to answer an urgent message, only to lose focus on your own tasks? This isn't trivial, it is overload. Your availability devalues you. If you're always there, your presence becomes background noise. According to WHO data from 2023, over 70% of people with burnout struggle to separate personal life from work or social obligations. Constant concessions steal time from your goals, hobbies, rest, family. What is left? Fatigue, irritation, and the sense that you give too much and receive too little. Another trap is manipulation. Think of a relative who guilts you with, "You never have time for me," or a colleague who asks for quick help that stretches into hours. This isn't care, it is control. A 2022 study in social psychology found that people often use guilt unconsciously, but the effect is the same. You feel obligated to respond to avoid conflict. What situations in your life make you feel guilty for saying no? The solution lies in conscious boundaries. Silence, choosing not to respond instantly, isn't indifference, it is a way to reclaim control. Imagine someone who always mediated family conflicts, spending hours smoothing things over. One day, they step back, the tension eases, and others start solving their own issues. A 2019 University of Michigan study found that intentional pauses in responses reduce stress by 20% and improve decision-making. Boundaries reveal the truth about relationships. When you stop being available, reactions show who values you versus who values your role. Friends used to venting to you might say, "You've changed." But this isn't hurt, it is their loss of a familiar script. A 2020 study from UC Berkeley found that setting boundaries initially sparks resistance but leads to healthier relationships long term. Those who respect you will accept your boundaries. Those who push back may value your availability, not you. Have you noticed how people react when you decline their requests? Saying no is an art that starts with clarity. You don't need to be harsh or over-explain. A simple "I can't eat today" or "I need time for myself" works. A 2021 Columbia University study found that confident refusal boosts self-esteem by 15 and reduces chronic stress. Consider this. A friend insists on discussing a problem you've addressed repeatedly. Instead of, okay, tell me, you say, I understand this matters to you, but I can't dive into it now. It asks not dismissive, it signals your boundaries. Avoid over-explaining, it invites debate. If a colleague asks for help on a project after hours, instead of I am busy, I have plans, say, I don't take on tasks after work. Clear, honest, no room for negotiation. Practice makes refusal easier. Recall a time you wanted to say no but agreed. How would you respond now? Consistency is key. A healthcare worker who stopped answering patient messages outside work hours faced initial complaints, but they set an autoresponder with office hours and held firm. 3 months later, patients respected the boundaries, and the worker felt less anxious and slept better. A 2022 London School of Economics study found that consistent boundaries increase perceived reliability and respect in professional settings. What boundaries would you like to set in your life? Setting boundaries brings discomfort. You might feel guilty, worry you're being selfish. Others may say, you've changed or you don't care anymore. That's normal. You're breaking a pattern built over years. A 2021 study in Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people setting boundaries face rejection in the first weeks but report 25% higher satisfaction a month later. You lose only connections rooted in convenience, not mutual respect. For example, someone who always attended family gatherings decided to skip those that drained them. At first, relatives were silent, then critical. Family doesn't matter to you. But they persisted, and soon felt lighter. Nothing vital was lost, just access. What relationships in your life feel one-sided? How would it feel to let them go? When you become selective, your presence gains weight. Relationships deepen because you're there by choice, not duty. Take a manager who cut unnecessary meetings and stopped answering emails after hours. Her productivity soared. Her team grew independent, and respect for her increased. A 2023 Intel study found that leaders who manage energy, not just time, are 20% more influential in their teams. Scarcity creates value. Think of a friend who rarely calls, but every conversation is meaningful. Being selective isn't cold. It asks recognizing that your energy is a finite resource, and not everyone deserves access. A 2020 Stanford University study found that people who allocate attention deliberately experience less emotional exhaustion and feel more confident. Rethinking availability is a path to yourself. Respect emerges when you stop pleasing everyone. True recognition comes when you no longer need to prove anything. Imagine how your life would change if you responded only to what matters and spent time with those who uplift you. What small steps can you take today? Maybe stop checking work chats at night, or say no to another unnecessary meeting. This isn't selfishness, it asks self-care. Your energy isn't infinite, it asks a precious resource. Reflect, who do you want to share it with? Which connections deserve your time? In the silence you create, clarity emerges. You see that your presence is a gift, not an obligation. And when you choose where to be, you gain not just control but the freedom to be yourself.